You're welcome back again to the programme. In studio with us now is Gabriel McSharry, our regular medical or nutritionist and medical herbalist. Good morning to you again, Gabriel. And
Good morning, Niall.
Thanks for joining us this morning. If you've got a query or any question or any condition you want more information on, you can text us now 083 3500 530, and you can call Francie on 0818 365 500. And Gabriel, you're going to talk a little bit this week about multiple sclerosis, isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mentioned it last week, Niall, that I give talks for MS Ireland around the Northwest in the last few years to people with multiple sclerosis, just on the nutrition and herbal medicine side of it and the condition. It's so someone asked, what do I talk about? So I'll cover a few points. It's multiple sclerosis is a complex enough condition in that we don't know for sure what causes it, but there's a number of different components. There's an autoimmune component, so it's an autoimmune disease in that the immune system attacks itself. There's an infectious component, there's a genetic component, there's a hormonal component, and then definitely nutritional deficiency is also in there, along with environmental toxins and so on. So it's kind of all of these which bring about the cause, but really the cause is unknown. So generally what I covered in that lecture, I just gleaned a few things, a few slides from it, mainly on foods that are good and bad type of thing, and some herbs for mainly the symptomatology of it. But I'll just cover a few of them. One thing I advise people with multiple sclerosis is to avoid what are called neurotoxins, and there's some of these, shockingly enough, additives in foods that have shown in trials to be toxic to neurons, so our nervous system, which is kind of the base of multiple sclerosis. So,
what foods would they be, Gabriel?
They're more so ingredients. So things like MSG or monosodium glutamate is the one that comes to mind, and what they're in is they're hidden generally in many foods, but generally all processed foods. It's a flavorant, MSG. It used to be, it's well known that this thing is toxic to the body in high dose, but at low dose too over time. And it used to be related to what was called Chinese food syndrome, in that it's a flavorant that used to be just in Chinese food, and people who get a bad reaction from eating Chinese food. But now it's in a lot of things. So anything out there that's processed, and when something's processed, they try and prolong shelf life. And it tastes awful because they kill the food and they prolong the shelf life. But so they'll have to put flavourants in there. And MSG is a popular one. It's definitely, just to comes to mind, the first things is microwave dinners. And spicy type of microwave dinners and that. They'll be all in there. The likes of certain crisps, Monster Munch or some of these things that are that aren't real, really. They're all spiced up and flavoured up. That's all MSG. And they've shown, as I say in the science, to harm the brain cells, and the bad for, they can cause eye damage, headaches, fatigue, disorientation and depression. Now all these are components of MS. So
so those suffering with MS should look at the MSG content in foods.
Definitely, and avoid the foods with MSG, which is monosodium glutamate. Another one is aspartame. Now, aspartame is an artificial sweetener, and so you'll get it in all the diet drinks and diet foods, diet yogurts, anything diet where they've taken the sugar out. As I said, they need to sweeten it up, so they put in artificial sweeteners. And there's a number of different artificial sweeteners, but there's one called aspartame, and it is no one should eat that. Anyone at all listening, really they should avoid anything with that in it, but especially people with multiple sclerosis. And here's why. There's a good it's a movie, kind of documentary movie out there. It's called Sweet Misery, A Poisoned World, and you can actually watch it free online. I know it's a link. I have a website, I have a link to it, but you might get it on YouTube. Her name is Corey Brackett, and it's she was a girl who got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the States, and she set out to see could she cure herself or whatever. And what she found was the only thing that preceded her diagnosis or the onset of the symptoms was that she went on a low-fat diet, and she started consuming quite a lot of diet soda,
diet
pop,
drinks,
a diet drink.
Lately, people are, it confirms what you're saying, lately people are suggesting that diet drinks are actually worse for you than
for sure, Niall.
There's no question about that.
Definitely. These artificial sweeteners, especially aspartame, are toxic to the body. And the thing is, too, is that the reason they're there is because of no calories, and therefore we're seen as better for sugar and you lose weight. But the thing is, what now we know from the science is that they don't work. So as you get the sweet sensation in your mouth, it sends signals to the pancreas and so on. You still release insulin and so on. So it doesn't work on that level. And therefore they're toxic. Now, I'm not promoting sugary drinks either. They're really bad, but these things are worse because of the things like aspartame, and it can become a toxin in the body that can cross the blood-brain barrier and can cause all sorts of neurological dysfunction that you get in MS. So that's one to definitely be aware of. Also, trans fatty acids. So these are man-made, unnatural fat that causes dysfunction in the body at a cellular level. So they're free radicals. Now, trans fatty acids are what you're getting. Say, read the labels, on the nutritional panel. That it's under EU law. They have to mention them now with things like margarine and anything with heated vegetable oils. So even things like crisps or some baked goods or anything like that, where the vegetable oils are heated to high temperatures, and sometimes they're solidified. So like the likes of margarine and that, the fat, and this is also, you shouldn't really fry for long periods with the likes of vegetable oil, olive oil, and stuff like that, because they'll turn into trans fatty acids. So. They're things to watch out for and to largely reduce, because, as I said, they've been all free radical damage in the body has been linked to Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, hypertension, and multiple sclerosis. Another dietary component is gluten sensitivity or celiac disease. And this is a very interesting one. It's celiac disease estimated to affect 1% of all humanity, so it's a very common condition. And the highest incidence of celiac disease or gluten sensitivity in the world is in Ireland, and the highest incidence in Ireland is in the northwest. So. This is something everyone should
be aware of.
Should be aware of, because the symptom picture of celiac it's a laundry list. It can create a load of symptoms, traditionally digestive problems, but now we know it can be there in the absence of digestive problems. But what some researchers found that in the diagnosis of MS, to also do a scan, an MRI or a scan of the spinal cord, and to notice little white patches, and that could lead to the diagnosis. But what researchers found is that these white patches are also present in people with celiac disease. So it's something that should be looked into and ruled out. And if you're found to be sensitive, avoid it by all means, and it'll prove symptoms. There's also things like circulation has been shown to be a possible contributing factor to MS. So people with poor circulation to the cerebellum, so into the brain, and it could either make it worse or it could be causing a lot of the symptoms. So. There's certain foods, obviously, that improve circulation and stuff like that. So there are a few dietary things.
No, we're not. You're not suggesting that lack or excluding these foods can cure MS or anything like that. You're just saying that it can probably lessen the effects of it.
That's correct. That's correct. And sometimes it can lessen the effects quite profoundly, because MS is the type of condition that it's not the same for each individual. It can be kind of rapid onset, or it can be a slow kind of burn over 30, 40 years. So. If there's a few things that one can omit from their diet and stuff that can largely improve this, I mean, that's a great thing. So a few things, a few herbal medicines I mentioned at the talks, generally that they're based on helping the symptoms. So quite commonly reported symptoms in people with multiple sclerosis is fatigue. So 66% of people report a high level of fatigue. Also bowel dysfunction. And things like poor circulation and poor cognitive function, or cognitive function and depression, things like that. So herbal medicines can be really good at treating all these. So one to mention would be ginkgo biloba, a really good, very well researched herbal medicine, and it improves circulation, specifically to the brain. It also improves cognitive function, so memory and concentration and so on, and it can improve symptoms of depression. It's also high in antioxidants, so it reduces free radicals. So that's one.
Ginkgo biloba it's called.
Yeah.
It's ironic you're saying that it can help memory, because we have one of the many texts we've in is a parent of a student who's obviously undergoing exams at the moment and are asking for recommendation on something to help memory. Yeah,
well, actually, ginkgo has been used, and definitely colleagues of mine in university used to take a lot for exams, based on that it increases the circulation to the brain, and therefore you'd have better cognitive function, concentration, and so on. And it can help in cognitive function and memory and so on. Now, the thing about ginkgo biloba is you can't actually buy it over the counter in the south. I can prescribe it as a medical herbalist, and your doctor can prescribe it, but it's very safe and effective herb. Don't be put off by that, but it shouldn't be taken with certain blood thinning medication. So by all means, give me a ring and so on, or go to your doctor. But it's a very safe and effective herb, and it's good for it's a good tonic to the body. Anyone can take it, students as well. And there is some, we'll say, middle of the range science to say that it can improve memory and so on for exams and that.
All right. What else? Anything else that can assist MS or assist?
Yeah, well, just back on the MS, there's, because it's an immune condition, there's some immune modulating herbs. So if your immune system is attacking itself in an autoimmune condition, which MS is, there's herbs that kind of modulate the immune system, and they're echinacea and astragalus. There's also what we call adaptogen tonics. So these are tonics that arrest fatigue and build stamina and strength in the body, and these can be really good for people who have MS, who are just getting through their daily lives and getting on the symptoms. And they're like Withania somnifera, glycyrrhiza, and the ginsengs. These are really, really good in MS, just to give more power to the limbs, because in MS some people they lose power and functionality in some of the limbs, and these adaptogen tonics can help there, and with the fatigue and so on. One thing I'll mention too is probiotics, and these are good bacteria you'll get in yogurts and lacto-fermented foods, and of course there's the little probiotic drinks now, but it was shown that 9 out of 10 people with MS tested had increased amount of bad bacteria and decreased amount of good bacteria in their gut, and so it's very good to get these probiotics in. You can get them in capsule form, but definitely a good quality yogurt is a good place to get them, and you can consume that on a daily basis, and that'll kind of cover that base.
All right. Okay, we've a couple of questions in, Gabriel, which I'll throw at you in no particular order, and the pronunciation is always the problem with some of these conditions. IgA nephropathy. Is that the correct pronunciation? When it's nephro, it's obviously something to do with the kidneys.
Yes, nephropathy is a condition of the kidneys.
What could you recommend for a young man with that condition? It's IgA. Is it IgA nephropathy or IgA nephropathy?
Yeah, I don't know that one now. But in I guess a lot of nephropathy, if you got to be careful too when the kidneys can't excrete certain things from the body. You got to be careful what herbs you use and so on. But if there's infection around with kidney infections and so on, around with general nephropathy and so on, things like cranberry juice can be really good, really helpful. But I get 100% cranberry juice instead of one with sugar, and just take small amounts, like a shot glass full, twice a day, say. And it's very bitter, and so you might dilute it down with a bit of water.
Oh, not diluted with blackcurrant or raspberry or anything like that.
Well,
pure cranberry juice.
The problem there is, and they're all like, it's